Hi everyone, I'm Patrick, and this is Yaya. It is looking largely like it did in summer 2023 when I stopped working on it. My friend David has continued to work on the app a little bit. He's been making some really significant and meaningful changes that should be rolling out soon. I wanted to capture things as they were. So Yaya is a language learning app that is focused on helping people learn other languages by reading. You can learn any language starting from your native language. So you could learn English from Spanish, Spanish from English. You could learn Chinese, Japanese, um, Korean, whatever language you would like to learn. And the way that it works is you can start reading, we'll take you down, and you can generate content using AI in whatever language you're trying to study at the level that you are at in that language, going all the way from newbie up to scholar. So let's start with just a beginner dialogue in Korean, and then I'll show you some other options. So as you can see, it'll generate the content for you. You have some options here. You can choose whether you want to see the pronunciation or the romanization will tell you what kind it is. Or if you just want to see the English translation, if you already know how to pronounce things, you can blur it out and then it'll show up when you hover. So if you wanted to, primarily try to guess the meaning and then get some confirmation there, you could do that. And got some other kind of, you can customize some of the things here, and you can add vocab for words. I'll show you in a second how that works. And you have an option to export this to EPUB if you wanted to read longer documents on a Kindle or something like this. So one of the first things to show is the audio. So if you hit play, you can see that we'll.
수의사, 안녕하세요.
Veterinarian, hello.
저는 수의사입니다.
I am a veterinarian.
어떻게 도와드릴까요?
How can we help you?
철수, 안녕하세요. 선생님.
Chiaosu, hello teacher.
제 강아지가 아프거든요.
My dog is sick.
수의사, 그럼 언제부터?
And I'll hit pause. And as you can see, this is kind of infinitely generating new content as you reach the end of the document. So this dialogue could go on forever. It's a great way to study. As you can see, though, the translations aren't always perfect. Sonsengnim would be any sort of kind of formal way to refer to a teacher or a doctor or things like that, and it's not going to pick up the context. This, in this case, is the veterinarian. But it does pretty well. And one of the other cool things you can do is for words that you don't know, you can click on them and you can get some information about it. We'll use AI to do this as well. This is all using ChatGPT's API. So we'll give you a definition, 시작 했나요? We'll give you the definition of it, as well as the base unconjugated form, and then an explanation of the grammar, and try to use kind of simple language for that, and then a sample sentence with this. If you add this as a flashcard, then that will save it for you. You can see that in your vocab list. And when you generate a new document, you can include particular words or you can import them from your saved vocab that are due for review today. So it's got built-in spaced repetition. And rather than just kind of churning through flashcards, the idea was you could look at things in a natural context. I think one of my favorite examples that came up was I had the word for sewer in Spanish, and I was having it generate a story of a grandmother teaching her grandson how to cook. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the story, there's a rumbling behind the fridge, and the grandmother says, "Oh, it's just coming from the sewer. There's probably an animal down there." And then they go back to cooking. And it's a little bit like a Chekhov's gun that doesn't go off. If this was a real writer writing these things, any little tidbit in the story would likely, be followed up on later or would be used for some narrative purpose. But the AI is going to just try to meet as many of the criteria as it can. So you can see some kind of funny, silly things, but generally made studying fun and kind of interactive. And let me show you some of the other options when you're generating things, other than including words. You can add your own. You can set your reading level going from newbie, which would be sort of present tense only, and we'd have some kind of settings in there to like show you the pronunciation by default and things like that, which we would hide as you get kind of further along. Then we would start introducing kind of past tense and other complicated things. There's a lot of like kind of hand wavy prompt engineering that went into getting these levels. Um, and they were generally like pretty good. One of the challenges though was that the newbie level was still a little bit harder than actually being a total newbie, and the scholar level is still not at the level of reading like actual nonfiction or literature or whatever you are in the language that you're studying. We were theoretically supporting pretty much any language that we could get through the Google Translate API. So kind of you name it, we could support it. Obviously, particularly with the content generation through ChatGPT, these things continue to improve. But in some languages, the content generation wasn't as good initially from the AI models. So one thing that we would do with those languages, we would start generating in English and then translate via Google Translate to this other language, and then kind of you've got the English translation as well if that's what you're using, or whatever other language. So you could specify your native language, and we'd have different types of content. Dialogue was really easy and quick for studying, and kind of go back and forth and use simple language generally. You could have a diary entry, so we tend to use more past tense, reflecting on the day, short kind of personal pieces. We use Newspiece to get more like nonfiction content that was producing the best results, and then kind of short stories. I'll show you some fun stuff with a short story. That was always my favorite thing. So if I've got a short story and we can generate topics, we had a lot of fun coming up with these different ones, using ChatGPT to kind of come up with these prompts and tweaking them a little bit. So tried to get some variety of genres in here. Here's a timeless love story in a quaint coastal town. Prophecy foretells of a chosen one who will defeat a great evil. And it all takes place at the bottom of the sea. And we'll use beginner Korean for this. Let's go ahead and read the story. We would try to have it generate in the style of a random author. We were playing with this. It really didn't affect the generation too much. It's kind of fun, and we were playing around with like what level of control folks would get. Initially, we were generating chapters and sort of trying to tell the story to come up with an outline and then fill in each chapter along the way. And the AI would generally remember the characters and things like this, and we had to pass some information to it. We ended up kind of settling on the infinite content generation, since typically for AI generated content, it wasn't quite as engaging enough to get you to want to keep coming back and read chapter after chapter after chapter. But it's pretty fun, as you can see. Here's the man chosen to strike evil away from the bottom of the sea. Although this was an ordinary, quiet seaside town, his inner self was filled with anxiety and chaos. And for any of these words, as I said, you can kind of click on them, get the definition, add them to your vocab list. If we were including words from our vocab list in the space repetition due today, they would show up in the story. And as you can see, as I'm kind of highlighting these words, I'm getting the corresponding pronunciation as well. So this was kind of the crux of it. Some of the other pages that we built out, you've got your docs, all of the documents that you've seen and read and practiced with. You can bookmark particular ones. Your vocab list, you can export this list. You can just do a strict vocab review. Something that David had built out, kind of like just going through flashcards. And we had an option to upload content as well. The initial kind of idea of Yaya was to take kind of native stories written in another language and human translations, and like sync them using AI and language models to kind of take the human translation portions and map it up correctly to the native one and interlace them so you could read them side by side with high quality content. Um, that obviously had a lot of challenges and barriers to get the content into the site. And we thought using AI to generate the content would just make things really easy for people that are learning. And we ended up kind of axing a lot of the code to do the interlacing from like uploaded translations, but kept the ability to bring your own content. So, if you wanted to get Swahili line by line translation for Don Quixote or something like that, you could go grab the text of Don Quixote off of Project Gutenberg or somewhere online, bring that over, and get translations for it. So pretty simple, pretty streamlined, but there's a lot of like great uh, capabilities and features in here that made Yaya really kind of powerful and fun learning tool that emphasized learning through reading and getting people very quickly to a point where they're reading content in the language that they're studying, so that they can read whatever they like, whether that's nonfiction or fiction or short stories or comics or whatever people enjoy. Um, Thanks for following along, and this is Yaya.